Hi witchlings, welcome back to my channel. It's me, your local chaotic witch aunt. And today we are doing I think it's my magical YouTube journey. It's a witch tag, the witchy tag. I'm pretty sure it's hashtag my magical YouTube journey. So that's what we're doing today. I was tagged by Olivia. Thanks for your tag, Olivia. And there's a lot of questions, so we're just gonna hop right into it. The first question is, how long have you been on YouTube as a content creator? I think I started, it must have been 2021, early 2021. I think it was 6-ish months about after I started on TikTok, and I started on TikTok early 2020, so maybe it was late 2020. It was around that time, so I think it's only been 3 years-ish. And then second question is, what is your channel name and what is the significance behind it? So the channel name is Chaotic Witch Aunt, and I came up with that name on TikTok originally. And I remember it was because I felt like I'm a relatively chaotic person. I think I'm less chaotic now than I used to be, but a lot of my earlier content was very chaotic. And then I did witch because I identify as a witch, and I chose aunt because I feel like a lot of people were, especially on TikTok, were like, oh, you're like my witch mom. And I'm like, ooh, I don't want to be a mother to a bunch of people I don't know. So I chose aunt because that feels like less responsibility for me personally. It took me a while to come up with, but I changed it, and that just became my entire brand. I never changed it again. I kept it. And I didn't want to change the name at all because I knew that everyone knew me as Chaotic Witch Aunt, right? And I knew that if I changed it, there was a chance I would lose people who could easily find my content, but the goal was just keep it the same no matter what. So I really chose something that I'm like, you know what, this can grow with me. You know, it's something that no one else has done, really noticeable, and one that'll stick with people because I knew that I wasn't changing it. So I was like, Chaotic Witch Aunt. I wish I had better significance than that. It really was kind of a spur of the moment decision because I'm like, what am I? Chaotic and a witch. And so I just added aunt on the end because I didn't want to be like a mom. What inspired you to start your channel? I wish I had a better excuse than like people were asking me. But I think I really did start because I was tired of having to make the same small answer videos on TikTok over and over again, and then no one would see them. I wanted more long form content. I wanted to share more content that I felt was educational and informational, and I wanted to really do that in a way that I felt like TikTok didn't have space for and still doesn't have space for. TikTok really, I mean, even Instagram has more space for it than TikTok. TikTok is so quick. It's so fucking quick. It loves trending videos, it loves controversy, and the kind of content that I really wanted to make on YouTube, there wasn't a lot of space for that on other platforms. So that's why I started this channel, and also everyone's like, make a YouTube channel. And I was like, okay. Sometimes I do wish I waited a little longer because I feel like some of my earlier videos were like, not great, but maybe that's just me. What type of content do you create on your channel? I create both informational content surrounding around spirituality and witchcraft and folk magic, as well as kind of videos that show what being a witch is like for me, what being a folk practitioner is like for me. So a lot more content as of recently, especially, where you can get into, like, you can see what I'm doing throughout my week that is part of my practice. I think that there originally, before 2020, I mean, well, I still think there's a lot of stigma around witchcraft. Like, I know people that look at me and they see a witch and they don't want to be near me, you know, not in my day-to-day personal life, but like on the internet. So I think that sharing my practice, sharing my day-to-day life and what witchcraft looks like for me in my practice, as well as sharing informational videos to an extent, is helping give access to people who may not have the money to buy books, attend classes, etc. It's giving them access to information, is also showing what witchcraft and folk magic look like, because I think that, you know, there's a lot of media that portrays it the wrong way. Is there a new style of content that you want to try? Yeah. It's not like that different from what I do right now, but I tried to do a week of spells recently, and I want to try to challenge myself to do more like witchy challenges. I really like trying things. I really like putting my all into it and filming it. And there were a couple that I have ideas of that I want to do, but it's very different from, I guess, my past content, which has been me sitting in front of a camera talking. This is like me showing me do things. And I really like that about it. And I like that shift, and that shift feels really good for me right now. What are your hobbies outside of your channel? I have so many. Well, actually, not that many. I read a lot. I'm a bit of a bookworm. I have been a bookworm since I was a kid. I read everything I can get my hands on. I particularly love fiction and horror books. I also really like thrillers, but only like dark humor, like The Secret History by Donna Tartt vibes, which is what I'm reading right now. I also read a lot of nonfiction. That's mostly for research. Is there a bug in here? So reading, I do a lot of reading. That's kind of like, if you are wondering what I'm doing with my day, if I'm not working, I'm reading. I also really enjoy plants, house plants specifically. I love working with them. I love having them around. I love like tending to them. And that's a really big thing for me. That has continued for a while. I didn't start getting into plants until I moved to Colorado, which I think is so funny because plants are so hard to keep alive in Colorado. And I was like, I want to grow plants. But a lot of times you'll see the plants in my background. I have one there, one there. And while they're really pretty background wise, I do really love like having them in my space with me. Other hobbies include I dance, pole dance specifically. I'm there 3 to 4 times a week at my studio, which happens to be the same studio as Olivia, and I am putting my whole into it. And those, I guess, and dance has always been a part of my life. Pole dance is like 2 years. I'm 2 years into it, maybe even like more of a year taking it seriously. And I think that even though it's just something that feels really good and I really enjoy doing, I really love watching my progress, putting my time and energy into it. And yeah, I'm trying to think of any other hobbies. If it's not, I'm thinking like outside of my channel, and these are probably not hobbies, but I also do like, I run a business with veils, oils. I make oils, waters, etc. And all that kind of stuff that I make also started out as a hobby for me. So I still, even though it's a business now, I still kind of consider it a hobby, because at the end of the day, I'm still gonna have a really good time making magical products and making like crafting a new oil in honor of a saint or a deity, or making customs for people, or sourcing veils, smoke cleansing them, enchanting them. That's like my favorite thing. And if you're interested to see kind of more about my business, because I don't post about it a lot on YouTube, you can look at the shop tab, or you can go on Instagram and look there. How do you plan out your content? I do plan my content, but like it's not a very serious planning routine. I have a list in my phone, in my notes app, of all the like videos, video ideas I have. And I will pull up my Google Calendar and go through that list and find one that I'm feeling good about, because there are a lot of ones on there that I'm like, ugh, I don't want to film that, or like I know they're gonna take more energy, or I'm just not very interested in them right now, but I may be interested in them later. So I pull a video idea from there, I pop it into my calendar with a post date, which my editor also has access to, and then for me, I choose like right the day that I'm planning on filming it. This has gotten more difficult as I do longer, more intensive videos, like a week in the life, because I have to start 2 or 3 weeks early. So Google Calendar is really helpful, because if I turn notifications on, I can see in the morning when I'm supposed to be filming it and when I'm supposed to start. But I really don't do anything crazy. I have a lot more kind of time to myself and days off right now than I usually would, because I had a lot of big projects and part-time job work kind of taking up most of my time these past couple of months. So now I know my days off, I know when I'll be able to do anything. I like to film between like 1 and 4, sometimes earlier in the day, depending on light and kind of what the vibe is. It's not a crazy planning routine. I'm like, pull up the notes app. What are we filming this week? What are the tools of your trade? I don't know if I know what that means. Like my witchcraft or like my filming? Hold on, I gotta look this up. Let me go watch Olivia's video real quick, because I'm like, I don't know. Which trade? I got a lot of them. So I guess for creator stuff, I have my little lav mics that I really love, I fall in love with. I have my Canon, my one Canon camera, which is a 50mm, and I have my vlog camera, which is another Canon, and this is a zoom. It is 15 to 45mm, and I have this little stand that Olivia gave me, and I then have my bigger stand that I like. I also have like all my SM cards, battery charging packs. I have a blue snowball mic just in case. I only have 2 cameras right now. If you want to help me get more cameras, subscribe to my Patreon, or a new tripod, because this one I've had for like years. It's like the first one I got from my parents, and it is such a pain in the ass. It is not a great stand. It works, but it's not great. So if you want to help me buy a new stand, buy from my shop. But as a content creator, do you experience burnout? If so, what does that look like for you, and how do you recover? I would be really surprised if someone answered that they did not experience burnout. I mean, 1, I'd love to take a class with you for you to tell me how to not get burnt out. I do. I notoriously overwork myself, like really bad. And I mean, I just took an entire like month break off of YouTube because I was so incredibly burnt out, and no form of creation was feeling good for me. So I had to like put a hard stop to everything except for this one big project that I had to get done. And then I went into it and I was like, okay, let's do this again. Typically what it looks like for me is that, I mean, I haven't taken a break. I don't think I've ever taken a month-long break on posting. So it got that bad. Other times I've been able to push a week or 2 and take a break, or not film that week, and I have other content saved that I can put out, or I shift around like the days, and because sometimes I do 2 a week, so we just move one to Friday, and then that next Friday's video will go Tuesday or Friday. Sometimes that's all I need to do, and I just am like, all right, what's something that I want to do right now? I always ask myself that. I'm like, what's something I want to do right now? It may be going to the mountains. It may be taking a break and just reading, or just watching a movie. It may be sleeping all day. If that is the case, I typically just do it because I have kind of a leniency with my business and my other aspects of my job that, like, for Patreon, everything is done in advance. And for my business, if I ship 1 day later, it'll be okay. I'm very, very lucky and blessed to have the most gracious viewers and supporters ever, that if I log on and say, I'm having a terrible fucking week, they'll get it. They'll be like, okay, don't worry. And I think that I'm really happy about it. I think that to an extent is what allows me space to recuperate so easily. I also, a big part of my recovery from burnout is making sure my routine stays the same. Even if I am not doing any like small business stuff on that day, if I go to dance class that night, I'm still going to dance class. Or if I do my part-time work that day, I could do my part-time work that day. My routine is really important to me, and because of that, I already have like time to relax, time to read, time to kind of settle down in my schedule, get regulated, and that is really important to me. If my routine changes, everything goes to shit. And so for me, keeping burnout away is staying in my routine, but also making sure I rest and have time to rest. Which video are you most proud of and why? I think the understanding my practice video. I pulled out a lot of sources for that. I pulled out a lot of my personal experiences. I really laid, it's like 40 minutes of me laying myself out for everyone to see. And I think that video took a lot of courage to do. I still think that. And I also think that it took a lot of time. That video in particular helped, I think, a lot of people really understand my practice and where I'm coming from with my content in a way that they didn't before. And I think I've had a lot of people reach out to me and tell me that they found that video so incredibly helpful in reformatting the way they think about folk Catholicism and saints, especially in the context of like folk magic and folk magic traditions, because I do think that there is a lot of, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of hate for the church, and I'm like, yeah, I am not I'm not a friend of the church. I'm a friend of Saint Anthony. I don't know, that video I took a lot out of me. But I also think it was necessary, and I really feel like that a lot of people responded really, really well to it. Of course, there's like a handful of people that were like, well, you're not a Catholic, and I'm like, no, and they're like, then you can't, and I'm like, okay, that's not true, but all right. It brought me to an era of really recognizing where I am, too, because I feel like before, there was a level of like, I knew what I was doing, but I didn't say it, and I didn't have something like a very long video to give to someone when they were like, what are you doing? And now I do. And that has been monumental for me moving forward. Who inspires you within the magical pagan YouTube community? I really like, I mean, I love Olivia's content. I always have. And I think she knows that too. I think she knows that I think she's like, and we're friends, but I think she's really fucking cool, and I admire what she does, and I think that she does it really well. I'm also a really big fan of the Norse Witch. I think the Norse Witch is breaking down a lot of walls that need to be broken down in talking about like Norse paganism. And I'm not even a Norse pagan. Of course, I'm always a fan of Mary Grace Farren's videos, and even though she's a smaller channel, she is a really great Italian American practitioner. Same with her is Angela Symposium. And apart from that, I mean, I don't watch a lot of witchy shit on the internet, but anyways, I also really like the Green Witch, Annie, and her content. I watch them like every week. There's also a lot, I mean, Ella Harrison, the Redheaded Witch. There are a lot of creators I enjoy who don't, or authors that don't make YouTube content, and I can list them below as well. Those are off the top of my head. I'm not great with remembering lists of things. So there are definitely other people that I find inspirational that I'm like not thinking of at this very moment, but I still would recommend. And then, are there any channels that you would recommend? I think that there are a lot of channels I would recommend. It all depends on what you're looking for. Because I feel like there are certain people I would recommend if you're looking into deity work versus like Wicca versus folk magic. I think a lot of the people I surround myself with are all folk practitioners. And because of that, I always recommend Olivia's content. I always recommend The Green Witch, Annie. I always recommend Mint Fairy, Ella Harrison, The Norse Witch, all the people that I said before. And I also think that there's a little blurb on the bottom of my channel that's like channels I love, and you can go there and look too. Do you believe there are misconceptions about being a magical or pagan YouTuber? I mean, I think people think that I can post, I can post whatever I want, but there are certain things that I will never share online. And I think that people are sometimes not respectful of that, and sometimes are very respectful of it. And I think that to be a witch or a folk practitioner and to have your practice out on the internet for everyone to see is incredibly terrifying. And there are certain things that I just know I wouldn't share publicly because of that, because of respect for maybe the spirit that it's like that it's referring to, but also because it's just personal to me and I don't feel comfortable sharing it like that. And I think that you have to recognize that, and that not everything is for you. That's my only misconception. I can't think of other, there are probably other ones as well, but that's the big one I think that's been on my mind recently, is that not everything is for sharing, but there's always a push for that. What do you like and dislike about being on YouTube? I personally dislike that YouTube does not make it easy for you to block someone on the internet, on their platform, or to make your content not visible from them. That was immensely frustrating for me because about like a year ago, a fundamentalist Christian took one of my videos and used it in his video to tell everyone why like working with the saints and being Catholic was a sin and you're going to hell. I couldn't get that video taken down. It took me a long time to figure out how to block him, and even now sometimes I can't block users. And that video still circulates on the internet and on TikTok, and my face is in this video. And that I think was really frustrating. And I think that's the part where I really disliked it, is because I disliked that someone could do that. And then I disliked that YouTube didn't take it down, and because they said it was fair use. But the reality of it is he wasn't giving a critique on my content. He was using it to spread religious propaganda, and he was using it to tell people and like to force his narrative, his religious narrative. It was rough. And I guess it does fall under fair use, but I think that a fair use policy between someone commenting on a video and someone using someone's video to spread really vitriolic shit. It kind of sucks, and I think that's what I dislike the most, is that those lines are really blurred, and I know that there's a element of being out on the internet that makes me open to that. But I was hoping that in that situation particularly, that YouTube would be like, ooh, this doesn't look good. What I like about being on YouTube, I like being able to view people's comments and engage with people. I like creating, I like making video content, and I like seeing the video content that other people make. And that, for the most part, is what I really like about it. What are some of the challenges and struggles you face creating on this platform, and how do you overcome them? I honestly, I love YouTube so much compared to TikTok that I'm like, I don't know. Because TikTok was such a, like, my mental health was so bad when I was really active on that platform, and it continued to tank, and it was so hinged on likes that I honestly think sometimes the biggest struggle with YouTube is getting everything up on time and getting everything filmed on time. And I really do think planning and having an editor has been really helpful for me in that area, because it was just like, And I'm so grateful not only to my current editor, but my past editor, August, and my current editor, Voga, because they have both given me the space to be like, I can't do this today. If I do this tomorrow, could you still get it to me by this date? And they can tell me yes or no. And I think that like having that is so monumental. Having that support is so monumental, and I think editing was the biggest struggle for me, and having someone help me edit is really foundational to my practice, and because of that, and to my YouTube channel, and that's kind of like, I'm so grateful to them forever and always. Love you both. Other challenges, other struggles, I think what I just talked about is being so visible, especially in the videos that I willingly post where I put myself out. Like I really just like crack open my rib cage and put myself on display. Those videos are really hard, and they're the videos that often do the best because I'm being really vulnerable, but those videos are really, really hard. But I think that being on, and like someone's gonna be like, you don't have to post it. Yeah, but weighing the options of a little bit of discomfort because one person doesn't like my practice or how I do it, and 100 people tell me that that video helped them in some way, whether it's they got access to information they wouldn't have had otherwise, they were able to reframe their thinking about something, and also having people understand me better and my channel better. I think the pros outweigh the cons, but that doesn't mean that it's any less difficult to be a public person, to be a public practitioner, because it is such a personal aspect of your life that you're putting on the internet. And I was really lucky that I was a practitioner before I was someone on the internet, and because of that, I think I had a lot of like, well, I still went through my phases, but I had a little bit more of a stable foundation before I started on YouTube, and that was really helpful for me. What is your opinion on monetization, paywalls, and exclusive content? I think this is so hard to answer because a lot of people are just doing this for fun, but I think a lot of people this is their job. And it's really hard because I have paywalls and I have exclusive content that you can get through Patreon or by doing A, B, and C. And I think in a perfect fucking world, I would give my content for free. But I think that the problem is that we're not in that world. And even in the past, when we think about like magical wares or information, mentorships, that kind of stuff, were usually done by a family member, versus like if someone came to you for spiritual like consultations or a reading or anything, you were getting paid in some way or another. You had your community around you that you knew would make sure you were fed and clothed and bathed, and you knew that doing this work for them was just part of this communal care. It was part of this village. And I think now, because of times changing, things changing, there are a lot of places that are still like that. A lot of people don't have access to that. I knew in my old neighborhood that I would be taken care of. I know with my family that I'll be taken care of. But it's one of these things where if we're talking historically and now, because a lot of people I think don't believe anything witchcraft should be monetized, right? I think what we need to think about is the framework of historically people would be paid for their labor. It just would be in a different way. And now the equivalent to that is money. And I don't think there's anything wrong with recognizing the work you put into something and saying, okay, I can't give this for free. Especially when we talk about projects and spells and content. There's some content of mine that it just takes a lot longer to make and put together. And I love putting that on YouTube, but I also know that there are people who would be willing to pay more for that for some of that content, for access to more vulnerable aspects of me, for access to blog posts or information that maybe I'm not comfortable sharing with 150,000 people, but I am with 100. And there's a level to this too that I think there's putting a paywall creates security. And I say this because it sucks, but I have a Discord channel it has a paywall on it. And I know that paywall protects everyone in there from someone coming in and targeting them, harassment towards them. I know that someone in there is going to be protected from a raid. And I think that a public server is fantastic and really important to have those spaces, but I also think that not everyone has the energy to run that. I know I personally don't. I know a lot of people around me who don't. And I think that if you do want to make that public and do that work and do it publicly and for free, you absolutely should. But I also think that it's really difficult to put everything on display and just kind of sit with it. And like I said, this is my job, so I have to think about it in a way that will make sure I can pay rent next month. A lot of times, a lot of my content that is free, it's just ads, just monetization, and that is my free content. I also have a bunch of free content on Instagram, on TikTok, because I do want people who can't pay that Patreon wall to have access to me. It's just knowing that there are some things that will be behind that wall for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I'm more comfortable putting it there in a smaller community with people I know will support my work and not be judgmental. Maybe it's because I feel like I did a lot of work on that thing, and I really want to be compensated for that. Maybe it's because I had to pay for materials in order to make something happen, and I need a little bit of income to gain that back. It's difficult. And I mean, I know there's a lot of people who feel like I wish this could be free, right? And I've gotten that a lot, especially when I started posting more on Patreon and growing that space. People were upset that I didn't put everything on Patreon public. A lot of what Patreon is, it's just extra stuff. A lot of, they have access to all of my YouTube and Instagram content. They were just like, you know what, I want a little more. And the little more that they get is worth it to them, because they want to support me. And I don't think that that little more, that monetization, that paywall, that exclusive content will ever be worth it to someone who doesn't want to support me in that way, particularly. And what I mean by that is not my viewers, but like, don't think that I should be paid for my labor in any way. Or people who don't like me and my content like that. They're not gonna find that monetization. They're gonna be like, why should I pay for anything from you? And that's very different than someone not having the money to pay for something, which is why I make free content like on YouTube and Instagram, because I know that there are a lot of people who watch my channel, and watching a YouTube video and watching an ad is the most they can support me right now. And they are just as important as everyone on my Patreon. They are just as important. And that's completely different from someone not wanting to pay me at all for my labor, or not thinking that anything I do is worth money. I don't know if that makes any sense. I hope so. That was kind of a vent. Do you have any boundaries on this platform? Why or why not? Yes. I stopped looking at comments a week after I post something. If you comment early, I'm gonna see it, I'm gonna like it. But there are a lot of times that the video is already up. It's been up for a week. It's not coming down. There's nothing I can do in that comment section, and a lot of times there are a lot of people who leave nastier comments a week after rather than right after. And so I also don't want to get bogged down with responding to comments all of the time. And that's kind of my main boundary, is I kind of am not as engaged after a certain time period with my comment section or with my viewers, because kind of for my mental health and for time's sake. I usually do still like browse through the comments every once in a while. So if I see your comment, I just don't go on like immediately or check it every day. And that for me is kind of where I'm at the moment. There may be a point where I'm more time and I'm able to look at comments all the time, but right now I can't. I can't do that. Do you have any current goals for your channel? Yes. I want to hit 200,000 subscribers. Maybe that's a lot, but I'm at 150. I think I can hit 200,000. That's my goal currently. My other goal is to get a better vlog camera. or maybe just another camera. I mean, right now the Canon and this one is doing great. I need to get SD cards and maybe like a new tripod because this tripod is so bad. What are some of the mistakes that you made and how did you fix them? I definitely felt like I knew more than I actually did at the beginning of my journey. I mean, and the thing that I did to fix that is I went back and revisited all of my old videos if I thought they were more harmful than good. But the revisiting series existed and was created purely because I recognized that a lot of my older videos were kind of yikes. Either they made it seem like you had to do things one specific way, or they made it seem like I knew more. I was sitting kind of high and mighty, this is the way to do it, without any explanation as to why. And I don't know why I honestly think it's an age thing. I honestly think it was I was still young in my content creation journey. And there were a lot of things that I did differently then that I do now. A lot of different beliefs that I held and a lot of different ways that I approached my magic and my practice that I don't approach in the same way anymore. And like I said, the revisiting series exists purely for me to go back on those videos and say, actually, no. Because I do think that I'm more mature now. I do think I have more understanding of like all the different practices and ways of doing things that exist and all the different kind of ways that I do it. And I decided that the best way to do it is for me to share what works for me. That's what I'd say is a mistake. I'd also say a mistake is filming on my iPhone. I cannot believe I did that. So bad. Filming on my iPhone and not getting an editor right off the bat. In what ways has your channel grown since your first video? I think my first video, I started making content because people wanted me to. Now I make content because I want to. And I think that's really reflected in my content. I did a lot of earlier videos talking about things that I didn't have a lot of experience in, talking about the way to do things, informational videos. And now I still have those. There's still informational videos there. There's still everything there. But I do think that I spend a lot more time deciding what feels good that week and what I want to put out. And I recognize that there is a balance between what everyone wants to see and what I want to put out. And I think I've found that balance now. And every once in a while I have a video like the Warrior Cats video where I'm like, I'm doing this because I want to do it and it doesn't do well. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. It's a great video. I'm like, I want to reread the Warrior Cat series and you have to watch it. That's me sometimes. Every once in a while I'm like, I'm doing this for me and everyone here you're here to see it. But there is a lot of balance and I know kind of what kind of videos I like to make. I know the areas that I would be comfortable talking about and I know the things that I would not be comfortable talking about. And I think that is a huge part of why my channel has grown, is because I recognized I hit a certain point where I'm like, I actually don't know enough to talk about this, so I'm not going to. Instead of just someone saying, hey, can you talk about this? And I tried to give an answer. Like I said, it's this kind of feeling of needing to know everything. And I do think a lot of creators go through that. I think it is I'm online and everyone's asking me these questions and in order to stay relevant, or I have to give them an answer. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't know that answer? Don't answer it. Because there's a chance that you'll answer it in a way that is harmful or is not great, and someone else could have given an answer that was better, which is why sometimes people ask me things and I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't know. Three most powerful words to help your YouTube channel and your practice. I don't know. And then the fourth one, no. And that's okay. Have you ever wanted to quit making videos and why? Not on YouTube. On other platforms, yes. I actually did on TikTok. I stopped. And the reason why is because it wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. The short form content that did well on TikTok was not the short form content I wanted to spend my time making anymore. And the long form content on YouTube has always been what feels really good for me. I think there were points in my earlier days where I was like, nothing is doing well. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And those frustration periods kind of made me want to quit, but also just fucking drove me to make it better. Because there was like a period in 2022, maybe 2021, where like, no, in 2021 and early 2022, where everything I was posting was just not doing well. And I think that was also a period that I was going through a major life transition. I wasn't very settled in my place. I wasn't very settled in my practice. My practice was changing, my path was changing. I had just moved across the country, and I think that to an extent was reflected in my content. There was and even though the videos and the content was really good, I was not as confident as I am now because of all those changes happening. And I think that as soon as you hit the point where you're like, I made this video, it's a good fucking video and I'm proud of it, people notice that. You know, versus in that period, I was making content so it's just to make content. And the videos I felt really good about, they did well. And the videos that I didn't like and I just kind of did because I needed to post something, they didn't do great. And I think that there's a way people can tell when you're putting something out that you're not proud of. People can tell when you're putting something out that you worked really hard on, and when you're putting something out that you kind of were like, I can't believe I have to make this video. Which is why I'm so strict with myself now. Like, you don't want to make that video? Don't make that fucking video. Do it later. Because it's not going to do well if I make it when I'm trying to force myself to make content, instead of when I really can put all my energy into it. Like this video, I was like, this is going to take a lot of energy. I'm not doing it until Monday, and I'm okay with that. What do you wish you had known before starting your YouTube journey? Lav mic. And the difference between a 50mm and an iPhone camera. I really wish I had spent a little more time on the technological side of things before I started YouTube, because now I watch my old videos and I'm like, the fucking audio quality is so bad. It's so bad. And and I know a lot of people didn't care. I care now because I'm like, I want it to look nice. Look at this setup. And I worked hard on this setup. And I know that probably would take time, and I probably wouldn't have done any of that if I hadn't started on an iPhone and gotten to a point where I'm like, well, I don't want this anymore. And that's okay. Do you post on any other platforms? Yes. I post on Instagram pretty frequently. I post on YouTube, Instagram, Threads sometimes. I'm like, is that it? I really don't post as much as I thought I did. I do a lot of stuff on Patreon. I do weekly tarot card polls, collective readings. I do blog posts. I do video content, book club, etc. I would say Instagram and YouTube are my main platforms at this point, and I'm okay with that. Do you have any advice for anyone starting a YouTube channel? Trial and error. Trial and error. It's a lot of trial and error. There are going to be some things that you try and they don't do well or they don't go well, and then you're like, okay, well, now you know. And I think that everyone's platform and following and subscribers are so different that there's no way to know exactly what your audience will want until you do it. And you're like, wait, they like it, let's make more. And I think that's the big thing. The other thing is just don't force yourself to make things. Give yourself breaks, give yourself time to find what feels good instead of throwing yourself into it. And then I gotta decide who I'm gonna tag in this video. I don't actually know who's done this and who's not. Oh my God, I forgot that someone who inspires me is Ivy the Occultist. Damn it. I'm gonna tag Ella Harrison. I'm gonna tag Ella. I'm gonna tag Mint Fairy, the redheaded witch. 3 people. Thank you. Oh, I forgot the Oak Witch. Damn it. Can I tag 4 people? I'm doing it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want, you can comment, subscribe, and turn the bell on, but absolutely no pressure. Remember to drink water. I gotta refill mine. Have an amazing rest of your day. Siate benedetti.